Good morning, everybody. John Spielke here for GAI Insights. Coming back after the U.S. Thanksgiving holidays. We got lots going on. Going to put some thoughts in your head, time in your day. We've got Adam, Luda, Ankash, Paul, and myself. We've got essays this morning, everything from what does it mean to have memory and a better extended memory that Perplexity can give you, all the way through issues around massive new open source that's available. So lots to cover. All right, Ankash, if you could start us off with the first article, please.
Sure, John. So the first one that we have for today comes from Perplexity, and Perplexity have introduced AI assistants with memory now.
All right, so this answers the question: what would happen if we had more memory in our tools? What do you think here, Adam?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. So I was probably optional on this one. I might talk myself into important. At first glance, I thought it was optional because it's another tool catching up and playing the memory game. But as I look closer, Perplexity is doing some things here that actually stand out above and beyond what OpenAI or Anthropic or some others are doing in terms of context and memory, in that they're not just, I guess, remembering things from previous conversations. It's actually searching across those previous conversations. So it's a level of understanding and depth to the memory that we haven't seen before. For that reason, it might be an important development. But overall, I think if people are using Perplexity is just getting a little better. People who aren't using it might want to think about the value or the importance of that sort of memory capability to them. But probably overall, for an AI leader looking at enterprise adoption, this is going to be optional still.
All right, get a big O. What do you think here, Luda?
Yeah, I was on between optional and important, leaning to important. The reason being, I think they're pushing the boundary. You could carry your context from a model to a model. So if you're using ChatGPT 5 or then switch to Claude, you can carry your context with you. And I think this will be very important in enterprise applications. It's certainly important for consumers, but in enterprise applications, because context is everything, and ability to take it with you, whatever the context is, very important. So I put it as important.
All right, got important here. Context matters. What do you think, Ankash?
John, I think this is an important development. I think memory is important, as Luda mentioned. Context is really important. So I was just working on an infographic today, and I was doing some stuff with ChatGPT, and then I wanted to give that to Gemini to create infographic with Nano Banana. So if I can get all of that within a single chat window without having to move the entire conversation to Gemini, right? So that helps a lot. And this is just one small use case. When we are using it in enterprise, multiple people using it, I think this will add a lot of value. So for that reason, important.
All right, I'm guessing where Paul's going to come here with a minor supplier with a product announcement.
Yeah, I mean, this is a super niche product. I mean, I had a call last week with a company with 50,000 employees. Not going to roll this out. This is like maybe you have 10, 20, 30 people in your company that do lots of research, that need a specialized tool, just like Claude Code or maybe Claude for finance. So, this is just a niche tool getting slightly better. So 100% optional.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Paul. At the same time, I think that this issue of memory is a big one. And this is not a bad little, hey, if you haven't really thought it through, here's some important points.
But what I do with that? I send it to OpenAI, tell Copilot to get more memory?
No, you get more informed in terms of like where the market's going. I think memory is going to be such an important part of the interface here.
Okay, so may I have a rebuttal on this, Paul? Smart, let's put it this way, enterprises are putting switches at the front of the applications. allowing the switches to find the model that is relevant for the task and most useful for the task. If they equip it with memory, like what Perplexity is doing, right? That's what, and Adam was referring to, or Ankash, that it would carry the context that you developed with one model into the other model. And that's critical, actually. So this is almost like a best practice, even though it's a teeny product announcement in Perplexity, but this is where the market is going.
No, Luda, I agree. So let's find an article that has someone who actually developed a enterprise AI app doing that, not a product announcement from a niche company.
Okay, optional it is. Next.
Okay, moving on to the next one. This one comes from Prime Intellect, and this is about Intellect 3.
Yeah, these folks. So this answers the question: how far can you go with a planetary scale open model and so forth? Ankash, what'd you think?
So, John, basically what Prime Intellect is doing with Intellect 3 is they have launched a 106 billion parameter model. It's a mixture of expert model where the training has been done end to end with supervised fine tuning plus large scale reinforcement learning on top of another open model called GLM 4.5 Air. What's they are claiming all sort of benchmarks across math, code, science, and reasoning. But what is interesting is that they are not just open sourcing the weights here, but they are open sourcing the entire post-training stack. So their data sets, their verifiers, and the RL environments that they have created for this. So all this till now has been limited to the closed source labs. So I was between optional and important for this one because this provides a lot of internal knowledge that people in the open source community need to train these models, not just the foundation models, but train these models on reasoning and then agentic tasks, because this is what they have done. So for that reason, I was leaning towards important, but overall, the model seems to be an optional one.
All right. So, in my opinion, relatively poorly written, but interesting topic here. What did you think here, Adam?
I was optional on this one. It's important research, but optional news, if that makes sense. I think it's too much like research, and it's too much on the fringe of a niche case where someone may or may not need it. I can't really see enterprise anytime soon actually like grabbing this and running with it necessarily.
All right, Luna.
Yeah, optional. It's for very niche community. Ankash, I give it to you that it's important push in the right direction for the open source community, but the average leader would not use it. It's too esoteric and too difficult for them, actually.
All right, Paul's going to come in making the case for advanced research in the future. Paul?
Absolutely essential for researchers and people who want to stand where the future is going in 5 years, but doesn't help an AI leader get promoted or keep their job.
All right, I landed optional as well in this. I do think it's impressive what they're doing in terms of, and their mission to make AI, broadly available. I do think, not for our AI leader today, but I think there's going to be a fundamental thing in terms of what the common good is, and I think it's going to be vital for for human liberty and things like that. In terms of being able to get access to AI and to use AI to increase the value of society to everybody. But optional on this one. Okay, next, please.
Okay, the next one comes from AWS, and it is a case study about how continuous accelerated contract processing and rights analysis with Amazon Bedrock.
All right, Luda, this baby gets into some decent level detail and economics. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a very well written case. The company is large. It has magazines like Vogue and New Yorker, and obviously, if you think about what they have to manage behind the scenes in terms of contracts and rights management between the images and the like, I think it's a nightmare. So this case talks about how they automated it to surface the new contracts or new ideas in the contracts and expand their database. So they essentially took PDFs of the prior contracts, put them into database, and the system is now able to check with this database and come back with a novel contracts. They saved, the problem for Condé Nast was that they were missing opportunities because their contract processing, revenue opportunities because their contract processing was so slow. By automating it, they were able to really take it from weeks to hours and were much faster in the market. So that, I think, for them, they don't elaborate on that, but I think it was a real big advancement. So I rate it as important, even though it's not earth-shattering, but I think it is an important use case.
Yeah. Okay. We're looking at a real yeoman's job here. What did you think, Adam?
I was a bit disappointed on this one. They talk so much about how much time it saved and all of these great things it did, but they have no metrics. And that's not normal for AWS, which makes me wonder to what extent they're just sort of being hyperbolic and telling a good story. And why don't they have metrics around this stuff if they have such an astounding use case here? I mean, to say from weeks to hours and give absolutely no data around it isn't very helpful to me. I was I expect more from AWS and the whole like OCR and human in the loop. I didn't see enough here that was really innovative without more detail to really justify and important for me.
Yeah, AWS is in between the rock and a hard place. It's if Condé Nast says we can disclose our metrics, they can't. Yep, I agree with you though. But it is, if you think about it, it must be a major impact.
All right, Paul, what do you think?
I was with Adam. I was disappointed. I mean, we know contracts a huge area. We did a Harvard Business School case and a write-up about the $10 million of Blue Cross Blue Shield Michigan saved. So if you want quantification, we should go over there. And I think without quantification, Adam, it's hard to get the other parts of the organization excited about it because it's just technical capability. So, I had it as important, if not optional. Just a minor footnote. We've been doing so much work on AEO. Guys, now every time I see an article, I'm trying to figure out, do they have 3 frequently asked questions at the bottom to optimize their AEO, and these guys don't yet. So yeah, they're behind on the AEO curve.
There you go. Akash.
I was also optional on this one, John. I think it's an useful case, but there are no quantitative outcomes listed here. So for that reason, optional.
Yeah, I hear you guys. I mean, I still think I think we suffer too much from, knowing the area. I mean, you have Condé Nast, right? Traditional publisher, has really done a lot here. This contracting issue is huge. They don't have the detail, but they do have, pretty straightforward claims on economic value. And, they lay out in detail how to get this done. Very practical, in terms of, reading the documents and so forth. So I'm going to give this bad boy an important. So I know the rabble, the mob cannot see its genius, but I am lifting it up from the mud of democracy. Okay.
Okay, moving on to the next one. This one comes from VentureBeat, and it talks about Black Forest Labs' new Flux.2, which is an image model to challenge Nano Banana Pro and Midjourney.
Yeah, I have to imagine a few German venture capitalists who kind of, got a little scared when they saw Gemini 3 and Nano Banana. But what do you think here, Adam?
Yeah, look, I'm probably going to give this an optional news. It is a pretty crowded space, and for people who stay up on it, they certainly are no strangers to the Flux models from Black Forest Labs. Even X for a while was using it originally before they got Grok up to speed for image generation. It's wildly popular. This new model, a couple of the capabilities we can highlight. One is it's incredibly cost competitive compared to Nano Banana, especially as you get up into the larger resolutions. You're talking about like 1/8 of the cost, potentially less per image. So it will start to add up, and as long as it's really competitive in the commercial space, that's going to really play well to Black Forest Labs' advantage. They also have something called a VAE, which is a variable encoder I lost what it even is here, but one of the 4 models is basically the variational autoencoder. And basically what this does is it's the equivalent of like a zip file for images. So it allows you to generate an image, compress it, but then expand it up to very, very high resolutions and maintain all of the consistency in the image. For professional people who are looking to integrate Black Forest Labs into pipelines, it's going to be a very important feature. As is standard for them also, they have quite a few models from the Pro and Dev models, Pro and Flex models, which are only available as a paid service. And then they also offer open source models. So congratulations to them again for staying competitive commercially, but also providing something to the open source community. I mean, great news out of Black Forest Labs, but unless you're right into this from a commercial perspective, it's probably going to be an optional story.
We lose John?
John, you might be on mute.
Yep, sure is.
All right, Paul, what do you think?
You know, I have an important here. I think in forwardability, I want the AI leaders to forward this to the specialist in marketing if they're looking at other tools here. It's certainly amazing here, but it's definitely not essential. And they're doing a great job. I mean, it really is stunning. Yeah, everyday miracles on the media front there.
But Paul, what happened to the marginal supplier on a technical issue product announcement argument?
Sorry, one thing worth mentioning, which is the big deal and why it's competitive, is that you can have up to 10 reference images, right? So in terms of the consistency from a marketing perspective, if you have products that you're trying to get consistent shot with, that's an essential element for sure.
Okay.
John, you're absolutely right. I moved mine back to optional.
Luna, where are you on this?
Yeah, so it's a very interesting conundrum here. So it for average AI lead, it's optional. However, Nano Banana is expensive. It's fascinating. It has multimodal capabilities. It has the whole library. So, but it is expensive. So for the marketing departments, the fact that this tool is so less cost and also capable, maybe not as Nano Banana Pro, but just to have this available, I think it is important. And it's open source. You can use it in whatever way you want. So I was more on the important side, actually.
Okay.
I was optional, John. I think Vivek makes an important point that this does not have the Nano Banana reasoning engine behind it, which is a very important part of Nano Banana Pro, I think. So for that reason, I was optional, John. I don't think so. Nano Banana's popularity is because everybody can just go ahead and give it a simple prompt and use it. This will require, I think, a lot more thought process behind the prompt that we want to share with Flux, right? So not sure how useful it will be for a regular user, but definitely a design person can do wonders with it, but still optional, John.
Yeah, I think I'm going to land on optional on this one. I think we're going to have a whole industry of people, little and medium-sized suppliers, optimizing inference on different models and so forth. Yeah, it's kind of like the way consumer packaged goods were before Walmart did efficient consumer response. You had all these little jobbers that would buy stuff and sell it, and all over. I imagine we're going to have that for inference. But let's go optional on this one. All right, Akash, next, please.
Okay, the next one comes from HBR, and it is titled AI agents aren't ready for consumer-facing work, but they can excel at internal processes.
Yeah, what'd you think here, Luda?
Yeah, I think I'll borrow triple optional from Paul. I think this article is very confusing. It's forwardability is minus 10, I think. I would not forward it. I disagree with its premise, really, because we've seen so many cases where Gen AI was used on the customer-facing applications and did a stunning job. So it depends on how you use it and how you put it together. So I really disagree with it. But the paper, just to tell people what it is, the paper argues that There is a lot of things that can go wrong if you put it customer facing, and it's better to focus it on internal processes. It gives an example of helping European telecom technicians to go on service calls and provide information for them so that they can get a jump start. They cite good results, like 60% faster resolution, saving million euros a year on this stuff. And so that's all true. And but I think the premise is wrong. So optional for me.
Okay, we got a hearty optional here, triple optional. What do you think, Akash?
Triple optional from me as well, John.
All righty, Adam.
I was only double optional on this one. But I mean, it's just, I don't know. Like, yeah, I'm with Luda. It's not something I would forward, and I think they're trying to really educate and inform, but they're like, oh, we didn't just make a full multi-agent system. We started with LLM plus a RAG. But then we realized that we needed smaller pieces, and boom, then we had a fully agentic system. It's like, how is that helpful? It doesn't give anyone anything to work from, really, other than start with building something, then realize you need to make smaller things, and eventually you'll have a multi-agent system. It just didn't really tie together and provide much guidance.
Paul?
What we talk about here, one of the first killer apps of the multi-agent systems was a B2C deep research feature at OpenAI. We're saying that's not multi-agent. Of course, that's double agent. So I don't want to talk about it anymore. Triple optional. And again, I think this whole discussion and talking about the nuances of agents, internal, external, I think is just such a waste of time. It's just software programs that happen to use AI, and that we need to get to the next level of detail down.
Yeah, I'm definitely optional on this thing. I think this is a good example of the. I forget who said it. One of the great philosophers said, thinking is hard work. That's why we judge. You know what I mean? And this to me is yet another article. It fits in the kind of the ruts of the mind that aren't empirical. And what I mean by that is something like the Gartner hype cycle has nothing to do with reality, but it is a pattern that exists in your mind like a rut and a mud road, you know what I mean? That people believe without even thinking about it. The same thing is here true. Oh, external must be harder than internal. That has nothing to do with what's going on here, right? And so it's just really sloppy thinking. Sad it's an HBR. Our friends at INSEAD continue to not impress me in terms of their understanding of what the heck's going on in this thing. So, but that's a criticism I could probably level at a bunch of business schools.
John, just to pile on, I feel like this is getting like string theory. We get like theory on top of theory piled up, and it's not even close to reality. And now we're debating these esoteric terms. So
yeah, well, see, Paul, I'm a little different than that. It's not so much string theory; it's more Newtonian thinking in an Einsteinian world. It's a wrong. It's habitual thinking from the past, or magical thinking in the statistical world. You know what I mean?
But shame on HBR. They shouldn't be accepting articles like that. They shouldn't be, really.
What can you do? All righty. Optional it is.
What can we do? We can complain about them.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna do it in the public forum. I'll do it with them personally. Say, guys, you got this all wrong. I don't. I'm a believer in wherever you can, praise in public and criticize in private.
I agree.
Okay. Here we have a paper on scaling. Go ahead.
Yes. So this one is a research paper which is titled Hardware Scaling Trends and Diminishing Returns in Large-Scale Distributed Training. This one comes from Meta and CMU.
Yeah, very interesting here. What did you think? We got our friends at Meta working hard on this. They've done some actually really interesting stuff on operating systems and network architectures. Meta has. What do you think of this one, Akash?
So John, basically what they have experimented with is, so they have looked at how training big LLM scales when you go from a small GPU cluster to thousands of GPUs. And they have found that the returns on training, they drop fast. When you go to very large clusters, the return from training stops being compute limited, but becomes more communication limited. So it's more about how GPUs they talk to each other. So with large sizes, large clusters of GPUs waste a lot of time waiting to talk to each other instead of doing useful work. So that is the key sort of takeaway from this. And I think this is optional for an AI leader. They can't do anything with this.
All right, we got an optional for an AI leader. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, optional for me as well. Interesting research. If you were potentially training a model and needed to determine sort of how to scale it and what to consider in terms of like the leaf spine fabric and the spine switches, when you get up into NVIDIA GPU clusters, I know Jensen has had a lot of emphasis and focus recently on how do you get those interconnects between the GPUs, higher bandwidth. So it should come no surprise that in at the higher scales, that's the limitation. But it is nice to see some research sort of proving that out.
Yeah, Luda.
Yeah, optional for sure. But an interesting tidbit that I liked, and it pointed out that the hardware availability went way ahead of the capabilities to manage it. And so, especially in the parallelism, right? So what happens as a result, there's a communication layer that had to be developed that is, and the result is 20% of the hardware is not being used. So it's currently, I understand why Meta and CMU are looking at this, because this is a waste, big time, right? And the communication layer inherently is not effective. So you need to get rid of it, and you need to start utilizing it much better. It will come, but this is an important tidbit, I think, for the industry.
All right, Paul.
Yeah, optional, but well said, Luda. And I think this means a lot more headroom still and getting more value out of even existing chips out there.
Totally.
And we saw, Gavin last week being so impressed with the Google TPU because of the fiber optic connectivity. So, but
sorry.
Optional.
Yeah, I was going to go optional on this as well. I think that what's interesting is I kind of flash back to when I got my doctorate. I was reading a book by Tom Barty on computer fundamentals, and he talks about the design of operating systems. And this kind of the balloon squishes out, depending upon how you squeeze it, problem. From a design perspective, it's just always been with us in computer science, right? And so I just think we're at another level of aggregation. I think it's interesting that there are certain. I was surprised that this is so empirical and has no kind of architectural conversation, right? It's just about, I would have thought they would have gone a little bit deeper into conceptually where can we go next, so that we have a context to, manage these things in. But anyway.
I think, John, this sales process still speeds and feeds. So it's just, how powerful the thing is. No one's thinking about optimization yet.
No, but one of the great breakthrough, I think as a breakthrough in computer science, is when first General Electric and then IBM really went at the, cross device operating system, and created, and in that they settled a bunch of things, kind of what are drivers and, what's in the core and all that stuff. And, this is so dynamic right now, right? Because now even what's the entity? Is the entity the multiple, the context of all the clusters and all the agents? Is that basically the context of the semantic operating system, or is it broader? You know what I mean? I think it's some time for some conceptual work as to, in the famous words of Bill Clinton, what is, right? Like what's the focus of optimization in general?
Yeah, but I think what they did is the first step. They empirically wanted to assess where's the issue is and see, and it will come. They will start putting it together to see how they can use that headroom.
Yes, but remember, I believe it's Einstein who said imagination is more important than intellect. So there you go. Okay. Patrick, you can do the tote board. Paul, got some announcements for us?
Yeah, a couple announcements tonight on our Learning Lab. Ian, one of a member of our community, is going to be doing a case study on a predictive analytics campaign using GPT. Tomorrow at noon Eastern, we have our weekly co-pilot training, free one-on-one training. Encourage everyone to do that. And two other quick footnotes on research. We're doing a lot of research with clients and work on AEO. and adding 3 questions at the end of any blog article, any content is becoming emerging best practice. We're seeing that at HubSpot. And then lastly, over the weekend, we did a spot check on 10 companies that are committed to being AI first or AI native. And none of them, Adam, had anything about being AI first or AI in their job descriptions. So we've got a whole blind spot, and all these companies are committed to it, that they aren't even signaling to the top talent out there. They expect you to show up with robots, that you're going to be trained. So real opportunity for improvement in those companies.
And the frontier firm, right?
On the frontier, yes, frontier firm. I mean, Zapier is by far the best company we've found out there, but JP Morgan and others aren't even. It's crickets. You go to the career page and you think JP Morgan is such a traditional company here, and it's not even using AI internally.
There we go. Okay, practical advice. We have one important here today. Give you an easy landing back in after the U.S. holidays if you're working in the U.S. and many optionals. And we almost had our third no-hitter here, but that's it for today. Look forward to seeing you all tomorrow morning. Have a great AI day. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye now.
Thanks all.